Hello again, it's Omar, the Chelsea supporter. I'm joined as always by my buddy Ebere, the Arsenal fan. Hey Ebere.
Hi, Omar, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, yourself?
Great.
Glad to hear it. Welcome to 3K to London, the football fan show, and today's episode is the start of a new series for us in which we're going to talk about players that defected from one of our favored clubs to the other. And Ebere, you've got a fantastic term to describe this little dastardly act. Could you please share with everybody?
Yes, it's called crossing the carpet. Crossing the carpet is a loaded historical Nigerian political term that harkens back to the First Republic in the 60s. It has a deep, controversial and clandestine connotation. Basically, crossing the carpet happens when craven politicians switch sides or defect from one party to the other. When this happens, the defector is said to have crossed the carpet to the other side. There was actually a carpeted aisle in the parliamentary chamber between the government side and the opposition, hence crossing the carpet. Sometimes this was done under the cover of darkness. So Omar, you can see why this is a fitting title for this discussion.
Yes, a very fitting title indeed. So from time to time, we'll sort of revisit this series with a new installment, and each one is going to focus on a single player to cross the carpet. We're going to kick things off with an emotional broadside for Arsenal supporters, Cesc Fabregas. Ebere, I do hope you're prepared for this.
Wow. Drum roll. Way to tee it up. You must have quite a lot to say about him.
I do, in fact, but I'm going to let you get us started, so why don't you kick off the conversation, please?
I most certainly will. From the Arsenal point of view, I would say this. The Fabregas saga did not start with his move to Chelsea. Let me, give some background and history here. There was a palpable angst amongst Arsenal fans when he moved to Barcelona. Barcelona's underhanded bullying tactics and behavior in advance of that move did not help matters at all. It was billed as a move back to his beloved club and an opportunity of a lifetime. Barcelona was playing some of the best football, in Europe at the time. I, for one, thought that he would retire at Barcelona, or that he would move from there to one of those retirement leagues, somewhere, and when his energy waned. It was a surprise. It was a surprise to me, and certainly to many Arsenal fans, that after a few years at Barcelona, he was suddenly contemplating a return to England with Chelsea after speaking with Mourinho. Even for the most temperate of fans, this evolution does take some getting used to. Fabregas was much loved by the Arsenal faithful, who watched him grow and flourish at the club. He seemed to return and revel in the love and adoration when he was at Arsenal. His move to Chelsea devalued his cult status, which he hitherto enjoyed at Arsenal, and put him in the category of a careerist. This is one of those instances, where the priorities and imperatives of fandom and playerdom diverge dramatically and significantly. For fans like me, waiting on EPL silverware for years, it is hard to watch your former captain help a city rival win it. I'm certainly not going to celebrate that.
Okay, the way that Arsenal supporters have felt about this transfer really puzzles me and just kind of demonstrates how fickle supporters in general can get. So what I did was dig out some select quotes from the Fabregas transfer and in his reflection of that transfer, and I'll let those speak for themselves. So we'll start here. With respect to Arsenal not wanting him, he said, Once I decided to leave Barcelona, Arsenal had the first option of any club, and I could not speak to any other club for 1 week to see if Arsenal wanted me or not. Definitely this was my first option. In my mind, I'm telling everyone, I'm going to Arsenal. This is what I want. Arsene can see this. I didn't want to be a beggar. They know the situation. In 1 week, they haven't said anything, and I knew straight away they probably didn't want me back. After the week, I had to take my chance. I had Manchester City, United, and then I spoke to Jose Mourinho, which I didn't think would ever happen. To be honest, after I left the room with Mourinho, I said, that's it. I don't need to talk to anyone else. I'm going to Chelsea. What he told me, the team he wanted to make, what he thought of me, how he wanted me to play, this is what I wanted. Now, when you hear that, you wonder, how can any Arsenal supporter have an ounce of bad feelings towards him? I mean, they had their chance, and they rejected them. And maybe most specifically, Arsene Wenger had his chance, and he rejected him. I'm sure he had his reasons. But the idea then that crossing town could somehow overshadow 300 plus appearances in a glittering career is just ridiculous to me. Anyway, moving on. On deciding to join Chelsea. Being at Chelsea is something I will never regret in my life. In fact, completely the opposite. I will always talk about Chelsea and about my time at Chelsea as probably the best decision of my career. When I was with Arsenal, I never believed I could feel the way I felt towards Chelsea. It was impossible. But this is the beauty of football. When I took that chance, I never thought I would be so happy there, and that I would be so successful, and that I would have so much appreciation and feeling with their fans. So now I support both clubs equally. Now, on managers, finally. He said loads about this subject, and here's what he told the BBC very recently when they had a little video. I would encourage you to watch it, actually. It's great. He said, if I had to pick one or two, Pep Guardiola played the game in the style I love at Barcelona. Same with Arsene Wenger at Arsenal. But under Jose Mourinho at Chelsea, I really had a special year. He is probably the one that I had the best connection with. The way he played with my mind was unbelievable.
That was not saying much. You said a whole lot about Cesc Fabregas. Can we just make that notation? As to the newfound love he has found in Chelsea and how he now equates Chelsea to Arsenal in terms of his career, equally. Well, all I'm going to say to that is repeat what I said about him now being a careerist instead of a cult hero.
Okay, now I have a question for you, Ebere. I recall Arsenal supporters actually being fairly sympathetic when Fabregas wanted to leave to Barcelona, kind of being okay with him leaving back to his boyhood club. And I understand the whole returning process, but can you just tell me a little bit about what was going through your mind with respect to that? Was there any mitigation that he was going back to the club he began at?
You're correct about that, yes. There was some fellow feeling there. There was understanding there. The narrative that he was going back to a club, that nurtured him, where he first cut his teeth as a very, very young boy, had appeal, for many an Arsenal fan. Nobody would have denied him, that opportunity. And Barcelona was playing really well, and they wanted his services, So, we were sad to see him go, but we understood, with him. However, the way Barcelona went about it was
they totally tapped him up, if I recall.
They tapped him up.
They had players sending him text messages.
Exactly.
And everything. Yeah.
They tapped him up. During the World Cup parade. I think one of them put a Barcelona jersey on him and so on and so forth. I remember
that. That was particularly tasteless.
All of that stuff. Was a bit grating. On the senses. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Now think about this though. He went to Barcelona, okay, and they had great plans for him, but it didn't really pan out. I mean, he really struggled for playing time for quite a while there, and he left not because he felt, as you've so brazenly pointed out he has become a careerist, but rather he felt like he wasn't actually getting a fair shake there. Isn't that right?
Well, that assessment of his time at Barcelona seems a bit glib to me. Why didn't he knuckle down? And Cesc is a fairly talented player. If he knuckled down at Barcelona and was patient, it's possible that he would have gotten his chance.
I doubt it, frankly. I think his problem at Barcelona was that even though he was supremely talented, he wasn't as mobile and couldn't fill the role in the specific formation that was being made there. And if I don't remember if it was Busquets that was in front of him, or if it was, or if Xavi was on his late. I think Xavi was basically on his way out at that point. But Iniesta,
yeah.
There was just a plethora of players that were right in that role. That just superseded him by either seniority or maybe in pace or versatility in that system. I mean, he couldn't catch a break. I actually, I didn't follow him too well, but I do remember that him struggling to basically get playing time there and thinking that was quite surprising, but just a telling statement about the embarrassment of riches that Barcelona had in that position.
I do agree. But, like I said earlier on, I believe that he could have made an impact there had he been patient and had he applied himself. Now, I understand, that your feeling about him is, fairly ambivalent, given his contributions to Chelsea. And you would understand, that mine are not, given, the way he left and, and how he found himself. Or he didn't find himself. He had a meeting with Mourinho, and Mourinho became the best thing that ever happened to him, according to him.
But here's the thing. So he's left Barcelona. He's made the choice to leave Barcelona, and he's looking for his options. And as he stated, as I quoted there, he had to ask for Arsenal's. They had the first dibs on him at that point, and they said nothing. Now, here's the thing. I mean, I want to understand. This is my opportunity with my good friend to understand where the change comes from being a lifelong lover of this player who is and an undying supporter of this guy who's always had love for the club that helped bring him up and the manager who did that, and then suddenly he's dumped into the role of careerist who only cares about money and trophies. They said no. They said no. So if they said no, he had no choice to go back to Arsenal. What generates then that angst at that point if it was clear that it wasn't his choice to go back to go to Chelsea, with respect to the fact that, I'll say it again in a slightly different way, it wasn't his choice not to go back to Arsenal. It was Arsene Wenger's choice. But I know how you feel about Wenger, and I know he can virtually do no wrong in the eyes of many Arsenal supporters. And I feel like instead of looking at Wenger and saying it's his fault that Cesc Fabregas ended up changing course and going somewhere where, incidentally, he won other trophies, and it happens to be a crosstown rival, we'll lay the blame at Fabregas's door, where it really wasn't his fault, in my opinion, at least. And that's I'm trying to be objective about it. So help me understand, my friend.
Well, I don't think you're being objective about it. And I think you've also forgotten what I said about, the historical significance of his move to Barcelona. Yes, you're willing to make excuses for him about why he left Barcelona. And you're willing to also make excuses for him about, his decision to choose Chelsea. I could read a bit of cynicism into that. If I were Cesc Fabregas and I was, considering my career in an, sort of an immoral fashion, I would also try and contact Arsenal too. And I wouldn't care whether or not they would want me. I just would want them to, I just would want, to contact them to give the impression that I wanted to come and play for Arsenal, whether or not I really wanted to do so. And the connection he says he had with Mourinho also shows another part of, the motivation for this decision. He clearly had a meeting of minds with Jose Mourinho, and after leaving that meeting, according to the quote you read, he said he was going to play for Chelsea. There was no other club he was going to consider. So
I must interject just for 1 second.
Yes.
That reaction is not unique to Cesc Fabregas. I mean, loads of players have talked about how influential and how good of a manager and how motivating of a character he is. So I don't have an extraordinary amount of love for Jose Mourinho anymore for obvious reasons, but I must say, if there was one thing he excelled at, it was in that sort of role, explaining that. So I don't blame Fabregas for walking away with that. He couldn't just shut off that part of his brain. Here was someone telling him, here's the system, here's how I want you to play. You join us and we'll win the title together. It's hard to as a player, regardless of whether you're thinking, oh, I'm in it for the trophies or I'm in it for the love. I mean, it's hard to turn away from that, especially after you have just been rejected.
do you expect all of that to make me feel better about Fabregas?
Oh, not at all, not at all. But I was hoping to tap into your logical side.
No, but then you have not succeeded in something you didn't try to do anyway.
Fair enough. One of those things we'll never know the answer to, like questions of the universe.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely. It's assumed existential proportions, shall we say?
Yeah. It's only too true.
But
too true, my friend. This is football love right here. This is why we are in it, right? It's for those feelings.
Yeah.
Those feelings.
It's for those feelings.
Cannot
yes.
be explained.
So yes, he has said that he ranks Arsenal side by side with Chelsea. Well, we also rank him, side by side with other players who, played at Arsenal, as part of their career as well. It's only fair.
It's only fair. Okay. Everybody breathe just a moment.
Yeah.
Ebere, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your candid, discussion tonight. Cesc Fabregas was a pretty hefty topic.
I was glad to do that, yes.
Thanks to everybody who watched tonight. Ebere, thanks to you for your time. I've always find it pleasurable to speak to you.
Likewise, Omar, I was quite fired up about this one. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who has, watched and listened to us.
Good night to you, sir. I'll see you soon.
Same here. Looking forward to it. Bye.
Bye-bye.